Good afternoon, everyone. Here at Bounce Innovation Hub and out there in Zoom land. Today it is Tuesday, March the 29th, and we have a really fun day in store with what we have planned. So at this time, I'd like to get us started by calling upon past president Sandy Narragon and to ask her if she would lead us in prayer.
I absolutely will, Steve, and hopefully I have the right type of prayer because I believe that we have the Akron Police Department speaking today. Is that correct? Awesome. I found this prayer for police officers, and I would like to share that with everyone. Dear Heavenly Father, please watch over police officers today and every day. As they go about their work, give them what they need. If it's wisdom, give them wisdom. If it's protection, give them protection. If it's a kind word, let them hear a kind word or speak a kind word. Meet them where they are and provide for them. Let them feel your presence as they go about their day. Follow them while on patrol to help them walk with integrity and fairness as they deal with many people in many situations. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Sandy. That was a perfect prayer for today. And now if you would join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, too, if you join me in our four-way test, our Rotary four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. Well, Mr. Connor Jarvis, I'll let you share with us if we have any visitors. And you may want to step up here just to see, Connor, you may want to step up here just to see what Cheryl may have online as far as visitors go. So
yes, that works. Thank you. So I know in person, I believe we just have the one guest here. I'll stand up here and make sure. I believe we just have one guest here in person that just walked in. So Mike, want to introduce your guest?
We have one online.
All right, thanks, Connor. So today on spring break is my oldest son, a freshman at Padua High School, Evan Gladys. So
you can't see him.
Welcome, Evan.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome, Evan. And then online we have a guest, Cheryl. You said Kyle Tipton?
Kyle Tipton.
Kyle Tipton. Kyle, do you want to, if your video's on, wave or say hello? And do we know who Kyle is a guest of today, or does anyone? Kyle, are you out there? Does anyone know who brought Kyle today? Welcome. Well, that's okay if not, but so I believe that's it. I know for in person, other than our speaker who's just walking in, and if there's anyone else online, please let us know, but welcome to all guests.
Sideways.
Mr. Connor, thank you. Thank you very, very much. And next up, do we happen to have any Rotary ambassadors in the room today or online as well? Any Rotary ambassadors?
Terry, stop sharing.
Okay, I'll raise my hand. Last Wednesday, I had a breakfast meeting with the president of the camp board, Michael Gallucci, and we were discussing our upcoming meeting of the boards. It's going to be the club board, the camp board, and the foundation board meeting out at the camp on May the 11th. And there has been some excellent synergy that has been growing with all of the different aspects of who we are as Akron Rotary. And so Mike is a great guy and is all aboard and excited about what the future represents as we continue to take our story further down the road. So Any other ambassadors? Anybody online?
No.
Okay, well, thank you. So now it's time for Happy Dollars. And as we enter into Happy Dollars, you do remember that about a month ago, we started collecting monies for aid to Ukraine. And for those 3 weeks, we called them Compassion Dollars. Well, we are back to Happy Dollars, but I wanted to report that we were able to raise over $2,500 that will be going towards the district and then going overseas to help those in need in Ukraine. And you've heard me mention in the past, having lived there in 1995 through 1996, being very intimately acquainted and speaking with our dear friends in Ukraine a couple times a week. The situation is bad in one sense with all of the devastation, but they are fighting like champions and they are repelling the Russians, and good things are beginning to take place. So I just wanted to pass that on. So who is happy today? Susan. David, do you have a microphone?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Susan, you go.
I'm sorry, I'm chewing still. Anyway, I'm happy because I was very lucky. On Saturday, we had the Dragon Boat Gala, and I got to see my friend Connor Jarvis. But at any rate, I was also lucky because I won the lotto, and I have an electric bike now.
That's fantastic. I'm gonna go real quick. I got 2 happy dollars. I got to see my daughter from Columbus this weekend, so that was good to see her. And I also have a happy dollar for anybody that would like to sign up to be a greeter or indicator. I have it on my phone. If you want to see me in person, or if you're out there online and you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to get you registered. You can always go online and look for the open spots yourself. So thank you. Or Fane.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I have 2 happy dollars. First one is for our Rotary camp. So many of you should have received a save the date in the mail. Our regatta is coming up September the 24th. That's our biannual capital project fundraiser. I know that there's some big plans in store for a new seawall at camp, but mark your calendars if you haven't been before. It's a great opportunity. It's a lot of fun. Other happy dollar is for Chief Mylett. Really awesome to have you here. We have a tremendous amount of respect for every single man and woman that wears a uniform. So God bless you. Thank you very much for being here. We're honored to have you.
All right, thank you, Thane. I'm filling in for Dave. Other happy dollars, who else? Cheryl, you're happy? All right.
I just want to also mirror what you just said, and we really thank you for everything that you and your men do and your women do. We just love our men and women in blue.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yes, I think we can all echo those sentiments. Bill Manby, all right. Get my steps in. I need it if you can't tell.
Hey, thanks. First, glad to be back here. I haven't been here in a while. I've been traveling way more than I could ever imagine after not traveling at all for like 2 years. So, but we're super excited. 2 of the companies that we raised money for have taken exits. One was just announced yesterday, will be a big deal for Akron. So we're excited about launching our second fund as well. But I also need to re-engage with everybody for our gift for super. We are going to get them a bubble tube, and we collected some money back when I was doing some Santa duties, and some of you had sent some money, several of you have emailed me, and I completely dropped the ball on that. So I will be reaching back out to everybody. If you're interested in supporting it, our goal was to raise about 2,500 so that we could get them 2 tubes, so we could have one for the older kids and one for the younger kids. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Bill. Anyone else happy in person? And if not, we can field anyone that's happy online. All right. All right. Anyone online that you see, Cheryl?
I just asked in the chat and nobody
Okay.
stepped forward.
All right, I think that may do it for today. So thank you, everyone, and back to you, Steve.
All right. Thank you, Connor. I will be dropping off $5 happy dollars. I have a 20 here, so if I can break it, great. If not, what do you think? Can you break it?
Let me see. I think we can. Yep.
All right, thank you. And my happy dollars are for Evan Gladys being here today, and thank you, Mike, for bringing your son. Also, too, it's great to have the chief, and I'll be talking more about him in a few minutes. We really are honored to have you here and blessed to have you in this city. Another happy dollar is for Bill Manby. And Bill, as you were talking, thank you. It caused me to reflect when you and I had breakfast, I think about 4 months ago. And you were sharing in seed form some of what you were doing and trying to get some of these deals going. And it's awesome to hear that they're breaking. And if you get to know him, he's kind of got a little bit of Lewis and Clark in him. And what do I mean by that? He sees the future and he sees it, what it can be for this city, and he goes after it. And you have to appreciate that kind of a spirit, because those two men, as you know, really helped to change the destiny of this nation. So thank you for all of that pioneering work that you've been doing. And the last two are just for the club and the amazing response that you have given collectively to help Ukraine. I mean, that's awesome. There's been some real sacrifice even here from some of you in wanting to help those dear men and women. And there was a question online that Cheryl made me aware of. What are those funds actually going to be used for? I can't speak for how the district would look to use them, but I can tell you that the needs are so vast and deep that I'm sure they will have no trouble in putting those dollars wisely to use. So I do have online here Ann Jorgensen, who is a Rotarian, and they're working at the wonderful University of Akron. And Ann's going to be sharing with you something that I shared the last few weeks, which has been talking about Be the Match, coming up here April 12th through the 14th at the university. And we're Zips Zap Cancer. So Ann, good afternoon and welcome.
Ask her to start her video, please.
Can you start your video, Ann?
It was on, I don't know. Oh, wait a minute.
I bumped it.
There you go. You okay?
We're good.
All right. Thank you. Yes. Dr. Doug Hansknecht and I, and along with Steve, have been meeting with the student athlete representation, happens to be me, and some of my student athletes, the leaders of the fraternities and sororities on campus, and also our undergraduate student government. And combining all of our efforts, we will be producing Help Us Fight Bone Cancer. And Dr. Doug will be sending that out to the membership so you have a copy of it. But we will be hosting bone marrow registration and swabbing on the campus. We'll have 3 sites. On April the 12th, we'll be at the Polsky Building, the 3rd or the 5th floor. And then on the 13th, we'll be in the basketball arena, the Jar, and we'll be there to do the registration. And then also on the 14th, we'll be in the Student Union in the Piano Lounge, as we call it, which is right next to Starbucks. But we'll be doing the registrations from 10 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. We encourage all to come forth that are able and willing to be registered for a bone marrow transplant registration. And our students will be acting as volunteers, and we would encourage any of the Rotarians that would like to volunteer, and Dr. Doug will be sending that registration out if people are interested for that. but you can reach me for any questions that you have, or Dr. Doug or Steve. But we are so excited to have this go forth. And I know that our football team is one team that is truly supporting the efforts of this endeavor. Tanya and Sydney have been wonderful to work with. They are the leaders of Be the Match. So, Steve, have I missed anything?
Oh, I think you've actually done a darn good job with it. So thank you, Dan. And she and I were talking yesterday, and Dan Rimmenschneider, I know that when the Zips were in the basketball tournament, you really wanted to go out to the West Coast. Well, Ann actually had the opportunity to be out there, and the Zips pushed them to the line. And if their two things had just changed up, they would have beaten UCLA. And if some of us older,
Aaron's got to mute when you're talking.
Ann, can you go ahead? Okay, thank you. If some of the older folk in the room remember back in the day, UCLA basketball was untouchable. John Wooden, the greatest college coach ever, and that's no dig on Mike Krzyzewski, because he's done a pretty darn good job as well. But John Wooden was an amazing human being, and you could not touch UCLA. I think they won something like 10 in a row, or whatever. But congratulations to our Zips. And this event that Anna was talking about is going to be a big deal, because when you look at blood cancer and you look at the bank of donors, potential donors, if you're a white man or woman or a child, you have a 80% chance of finding a match out of their bank. But if you're part of the Black community, that goes all the way down to 29%. And so we just felt called to be part of the answer in raising those numbers across the board and getting more folks who could be a matchable donor. And so if you've got people 18 to 40, that will work perfectly. And the swabbing takes, I think the whole process takes like 10 minutes because they have to fill out some paperwork and then a simple swab. So this is our call to some of you on the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th. It's going to, as she shared, from 10 to 3. And if you can come out for a couple of hours and help out, that would be wonderful. And Dr. Doug will be sending out that letter. So just take a look at your calendars, see if you can match up with this, no pun intended, and that would be great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much again. I just wanted to mention that not a lot of people in Akron, Ohio have heard about Midwestern State University. Please tell the chief that my husband, departed now, was the band director at Midwestern State University for 11 years. I know Wichita Falls very well.
Wow, you were kind of connected here, there, and everywhere. But one other thing I have to tell on her. So she's a graduate of Michigan State. So if you can turn off your volume, that'd be great. So she's a graduate of Michigan State, and she was up there for a conference, I don't know, a year or two ago. And she had, on one previous encounter, met Tom Izzo, the coach. And so she was back up there a couple of years later. She's walking down the hall, and he sees her, and he goes, "Ann, so good to see you." And I said, "Does this guy have a photographic memory, or did you make that much of an impression on him that a couple of years later, that Tom Izzo would remember her name like they were long lost friends?" And so I guess that's the culture of Michigan State. So good for you, Ann. Are there any other announcements that anybody here in the room needs to make or online? See anybody?
Hey, Steve,
Yes, sir, Terry.
I just want to remind people for registering for the scholarship event, because we do need to have a count by April 17th. So it's critical that we get those registrations
Yeah.
in. It's a great group of students we'll be recognizing.
Let's rally.
All right, well, thank you for that. Now, today also is a very special day, not just because we were fortunate to have the chief here with us, but we are celebrating as a club 108 years of existence. And in the back, and some of you I see have taken your meal, but if you haven't grabbed a piece of that cake, please grab a piece. Because Charlie, that thing is huge. You could feed 100 people off of that. So thank you.
It's actually April 1st.
Cheryl wanted me to pass it on. It's actually April 1st, but that's Friday, so we wouldn't meet until after that. So, but happy birthday, Akron Rotary Club. All right, I'm trying to think if there's anything else before I introduce Chief Mylett. Well, you know, they say you only get one chance to make a good first impression. And I think there's a lot of fairness in that statement. And about 6 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to meet the chief at an event that was held at the Akron Public Library. And 100 Black Men was hosting an event, it was their annual event. And they had invited the chief to share for a couple of minutes. And they had an outstanding program, by the way. What a great group of guys. And so the chief shared, and then I think the entire program went on for just about 2 hours. And so afterwards, I went up and I introduced myself to him, and we had about a 5-minute conversation. But the thing that really took me about meeting you, Steve, and coming from a police family, with my father having served, my brother and my nephew currently serving, is that the type of work that our police officers are doing in 2022 and for the last number of years is not easy work. And you see kind of the underbelly of what our society can be like. And to maintain a positive spirit, to maintain an open heart is a real challenge. But in meeting you, I was very much taken with the reality of your humanity, that you're all in. And Akron spent a good while in looking for a chief, and there were a number that went through the interview process, and then they settled in on you. And I would just simply say to everybody here, everybody out there on Zoom, Akron made the right choice. And so we're privileged to have you here. As you come up, I'm going to read this little resume, but thank you. We're glad to have you here. So it wasn't too long ago. It's a little longer than 7 months ago. In August, he was sworn in as Akron's chief. He actually served in the Air Force before starting his law enforcement career as a peace officer in Corpus Christi, Texas, all the way up to 2011, where he obtained the rank of assistant chief. He was named chief of police in Southlake, Texas in 2011. He served there until 2015 and then began as the chief of Bellevue, Washington Police Department until being named our chief here in Akron. He now commands the department's 447 officers and supervisors, 43 reserve officers, and 33 civilians that serve Akron's 198,000 citizens. Chief Mylett has a bachelor's degree from Midwestern State University, as Ann pointed out, and a master's degree in criminal justice leadership and management from Sam Houston State University. He's been married for over 30 years to Joanne, blessed with 4 children, Valerie, Stephen, Anna, and Christian, and 2 grandkids. That's awesome, Jasmine and Martin Jr. So Chief, we are honored to have you here. Please come and share whatever you like.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, so I gotta move. That's, it's hard for me to address, because I can get a little animated and passionate about some of the things I speak about. So if you allow me, I'm going to talk down from here. Straight out of the gate, number one, Steve, thank you so much for the invitation to come and join the Rotary Club for this meeting and to share some information. And I also want to thank everybody for the love that you've shown me since I've arrived here, and the men and women of the police department, both sworn and civilian. It is a difficult job, but it's one that your police officers, your servants, go into it with the best of intentions and the most noble heart. But before I get into my presentation, I gotta tell you, I have a dilemma. And this is my dilemma. I spent 6.5 years in Bellevue, Washington. Beautiful, beautiful community, outstanding people. And I earned my blue badge in the Rotary Club. And here's my dilemma. When they indoctrinated me really, really good, because they told me that the Bellevue Rotary Club was the best club in the country. Is that true? No. All right, so to my brothers and sisters in Bellevue, I love you, I miss you, but I gotta get on with the new family here. So I'll never forget that, yes, over there you were the best, but I think, you know, you got some competition here. Just a little bit about me. I grew up in New York. My dad was a New York police officer. He was the founding father of the New York Police Department Scuba Unit. That's where he spent the majority of his career. My parents had 7 sons. I was their last hope for a girl. So I'm number 7, so I am the baby. Both my parents have passed. My dad 2 years ago. And I miss them very, very much. But my mother really ran the household. And my mom, you know, she was a stay-at-home mom, traditional homemaker. And my dad was always working and trying to feed 7 sons. And there's 13 years between me and my brother Dave, my oldest brother. And as we were growing up, my mother was a patriot of this country. She loved this country. During the 1960s, you know, the issues that were going on in this country, the things that she wanted for her son, she told us all the same thing. I don't care what profession you choose. I do not care who you marry, what they look like. I don't care this, and this, and this. But from my heart, please, 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 don't go in the military and don't be a police officer. So being the dutiful sons that she had, 3 of us went in the military and 5 of us became cops. Wow. And, you know, she wanted the best for her children, and, you know, she knew what it was like to be the wife of a police officer. It was difficult. It was difficult during the 1960s, 70s when my father served, but it's even more difficult in some ways now. Before my father passed, we were comparing notes about conditions, and I have memories. You know, I was born in 1965. So I do remember the end of the Vietnam War. I do remember turmoil, and I do remember, you know, rioting in the country. But the things that we've witnessed in this country, the divide is just so, you know, it's present everywhere we go. And we're going to get past it, and I think we're going to emerge as a stronger country as a result. But for our police officers specifically, we as police officers get pulled into many, many different situations. And it's usually when somebody's having a bad day. One of the things that I found when I was looking, I'll tell you, I was looking for a police department in last year, but more than anything else, I was looking for a home. I love Bellevue. I will never, ever forget what I learned there. I love Southlake, Texas. Southlake, Texas is a wonderful community. Corpus Christi, you take a pint of my blood, part of my DNA is the Corpus Christi Police Department. I spent 23 years there, and as my brother did as well, my older brother. But the cost of living in the Pacific Northwest is incredible. And there was no path forward for home ownership for my wife and I, let alone our children. I do have 4 kids, 2 of them Marines. And my youngest is 25. He's in the final process for the Columbus Police Department. My wife and I want our kids and our grandkids in close proximity to us. And that was not going to happen in the Pacific Northwest. 1,000 square feet in the Seattle area is going close to $1 million. It's just insane, but it's so beautiful there. It's one of the most beautiful places in the country, I think. So I started looking, and I got notified by the headhunter that Akron was looking for a police chief. I knew about Akron, and my brother James, my next older brother, number 6, he has done the entire family genealogy. And so I let my brothers know I'm looking at Akron, and I get a text message. Hey, our great whoever was a magistrate in Akron, Ohio, back in blah, 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 blah. And part of the Irish wave that came over in the 1800s. And some settled here. And so when I started looking at Akron, and I was looking at a couple of other places, I got online and I started listening to Mayor Horgan. And it's important to me who I'm going to be working for. At this point in my career, it's important. And I started listening to his messages. And I started listening to the passion that he spoke with. And I said, I can get on board with that. I can see this man's heart, I can hear it, and I want to be part of that team. Then my son and I, my wife is of Mexican heritage, and my children very, very much reflect my wife. And so they present very Hispanic or Latino. So my son and I, before I even applied, I did a recon mission. Being a good military member, you go in, you find out exactly what's going on before you get there. So I came here. And I gotta tell you, I'm always mindful of discrimination and racism in our country, especially where I'm going to plant my family. So I get here and Stephen and I are driving around again. I haven't applied yet. And we're going down. I didn't know where it was when I told the story when I first got here, but I since know where it's at. I'm coming down Merriman up to Portage Trails, right? Down at the valley. And you got a BP station over here to the left. So as I'm coming down from like Kingswood Drive, I'm going slow because I'm looking left, I'm looking right, and man, this is a nice place. We driven around the city, people were friendly. Again, I'm from New York, and I know, when you're driving, there's certain behaviors that happen, and it'll mean something here in a second. So I'm driving, I'm looking to my left, my right, I'm looking to my left, and I'm telling Stephen, this is a really nice place. It looks like a great community. I come down the hill and I'm coming up to the stoplight, and I become aware that I'm driving like a tourist. And so I'm doing like 10, 15 miles an hour. I look in my rearview mirror and somebody is right on my tail, right on my rear end. And so I speed up a little bit and I'm thinking, light, please be green, because I don't want a confrontation. I don't need any problems. I haven't even applied for this job yet. So I pull up, and as I'm getting, it turns yellow, and I had a decision to make. Do I gun it or do I slow down? I slowed down and I got caught at the light. I'm hoping this person's going to, because they're getting animated. I can see them, in the driver's seat. And right next to me, they pull up in the left turn lane, and I'm not making eye contact. I refuse to look over because I don't want to, right? So this lady starts honking the horn, and I look at my son. I said, man, here we go. Son, here we go. And I look over, and she's like, roll down your window. So I'm about to get chewed out, and all I'm gonna say is, yes, I'm sorry, whatever. I rolled down the window, and I had Illinois plates, but Steve and I flew into Chicago. And she looked at me and she said, are you lost? I said, no, ma'am. I said, actually, my son and I here would think about relocating. Oh, this is a wonderful community. Oh, like, and then cycles, the light cycles. And now other people are getting angry with us because we're having a conversation. And at the end, this is my name, this is my phone number, tell your wife to call me, and I'll answer any questions. Oh, welcome to the community. I said, I found home. I found the home where I want to be, where I want to attract my children. Our youngest came out with us with his wife. I'm working on 2 others to move here, and I think hopefully before it's all said and done, I'll get them here. My oldest will never leave Corpus Christi. I've come to terms with that. But with the airfare, hopefully it's going to start coming down. We'll get them here more often. So this is how I got to Akron. Let me tell you what I've been doing over the last 7 months. I had to get ready for the state certification test. I had to take the basic peace officer test like any other recruit. So that kind of distracted me for a little while. I had to sit in class and everything. But one of the things that I've been doing is that I've been going out and meeting the community in the different board meetings. I've been going to events like the 100 Black Men of Akron. And what I have found is a very welcoming community that is united over certain things. And number one is to get this god-awful gun violence down, to eliminate it. I see passion in all sections of this community to get that done. That's fantastic. One of the other things that I've been doing is interviewing every single employee in the police department one-on-one. And I ask them 8 separate questions. One of the questions is what are or what should be the 3 top priorities for the Akron Police Department? And almost number one universally, I've gotten through almost over halfway through the police department, is finding better and innovative ways to provide services to the Akron community. Their heart is gold. They're not perfect people. We're flawed. We're gonna make mistakes. But I promise you, in the 7 months that I've been here, be proud of your police officers. And I'm not up here trying to, cheerlead for the department. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't say it. I just would go on to something else. The men and women of this police department truly are here because they've been called to serve. They've been called to try and help the community and meet the community where they are. The police department cannot do it on its own. This issue with gun violence and every other challenge in our community. I just met with the Pickett family this morning. Michaela Pickett was shot and killed 2 years ago. She's 8 years old. She was at a party. Birthday party of some event, and gunfire erupted, and there were multiple rounds, 40 plus rounds being shot across, and Michaela was shot and killed. The reports that we got were either she was caught in a crossfire or somebody actually walked up to her and shot her as she was hiding under the table. We can't accept that, folks. We can't accept any loss of human life period for gun violence. But when it impacts the most vulnerable of our population, children, the elderly, but certainly children 8 years old, if there's any rallying cry for us to get up and say we're not tolerating it, it's that. And we can't forget her. We've been challenged with identifying the shooters. We know who they are, but actually having somebody, and there was hundreds of people there, actually having somebody come up and say, it was that person, I saw that, we're getting closer to it. We have some good news from the prosecutor's office this week that I'm not at liberty to share, but my hope is that we're actually going to put handcuffs on people to bring them to account for their actions and bring them to justice. Last year, your police department seized over 1,200 firearms from the streets of Akron, 1,200. Now, the sad part about it is that those 1,200 guns that we took off of people, many of those people went out and got another 1,200 because the supply of firearms is off the charts. I've never seen this in my career. And we've been challenged with trying to find where the supply is coming from. Some of it is coming from burglaries, not all of it, not the vast majority of it, but some of it's coming from burglaries where people are legally in possession of a firearm in their home. Somebody breaks in and it's not secure and they steal it. So, and ask is if you are a firearm owner, please lock up your firearms inside the house. For multiple reasons, but if nothing else, it's to prevent, if somebody does invade your castle, your home, that it's going to be one less thing that they're going to be able to take. But it has been a challenge trying to find, we know where the methamphetamines are coming from. We know where the fentanyl is coming from. We know where the marijuana is coming from. But it has been a challenge to find where the supply of firearms is coming from. But we're going to continue to work at that. When I was in Bellevue and I joined the Rotary Club, I was first introduced to the 4-way test. And the 4-way test since then has been predominantly displayed on my computer. I have it taped underneath, because when you look at this, you know, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And the fourth is, will it be beneficial to all concerned? If we use that as a framework of a value system, you can't go wrong. So whoever came up with that, and if you talk to my friends in Bellevue, they'll tell you that they came up with the 4A test. Not believable. This is something that we need to live in our lives, and we're living in a generation where conflict resolution skills aren't there. People are not, you know, I'm seeing more and more where the focus is internal and me instead of what's in the best interest of the community. And I don't know how to get past that other than, you know, living by example and showing the example that this is a better way, that, you know, the world is bigger than all of us. And I'm a Catholic. I believe in the golden rule and, you know, service. And the more in which we can do that and demonstrate that, hopefully it'll take root with many. Steve, how much time do I have?
You've got another, let's see. Yeah, you got another 10 to 12 minutes.
Okay, good. So I got some good news and I got some bad news. Which do you want first?
Yeah.
Bad news first.
Let's end on good news.
Bad news is crime is still high in the city. Bad news is that our overdose rates are continually climbing out of control. Bad news is that we are understaffed in the police department. Good news is that crime overall is coming down, double-digit numbers. It's still too high for Akron. For a community of close to 200,000 people, we should not have 50 homicides a year. Like we witnessed in 2020, it dropped in 2021 to 42. That's 42 human beings that are no longer with us. And it's just not the loss of life that of the person who shot and killed on the ground. It's also the person that pulled the trigger. What is leading that person, young person, to not have value for the other human being, but not have value for their own selves? Because they're going to go to prison for the bulk of their life, if not their entire life. There's loss there. But we saw a downward trend towards the end of 2021. And this is one of the reasons I believe. They're, relatively speaking, when you look at 150,000 calls that we made contacts with the public, and when you look at the violence in this city of close to 200,000 people, the individuals that are responsible for it is statistically about a handful. We knew there was one person that was involved in many of the violent acts in this city. It just so happened that person committed a homicide off of Russell Street. I went out to the scene. I was out there at the scene, and some good citizen, as we're out there trying to, you know, find out what happened, it was a 19-year-old young man that was shot and killed. And somebody pointed over to the house where the suspect was. That led to SWAT mobilization. That led to a long standoff, but we took the person into custody safely. And I think he was 18 years old. When we put that person in jail, we had no more homicides for the rest of the year. It just stopped. One person. I am convinced, again, that there's a handful of people that are responsible for the bulk of our violence in this city. And then it's, you know, when you get down to the triage of all these cases, especially the ones involving young people, there's a lot of common denominators, but one of the common denominators is, Steve, when you and I were in school, you may have been in school before me, but I'm not gonna say anything, but when we were in school and we had a conflict, whatever the conflict was, you like the Mets, I like the Yankees, or it's a girl, whatever it is, how did we resolve it? I'll tell you how I resolved it. We went around to the shop and, you know, we duked it out, right?
It was a duke out.
I am not advocating violence. I am not advocating violence. I am not advocating fisticuffs. I'm not, but that was the method that, and then we got pulled into the school. Maybe we got in school suspension or we had to go home and tell our mothers. And then we really got it. But at the end of it, we're done, right? You win, I lose, okay. It's still the Yankees, but that's neither here nor there. Now, the conflict resolution goes from, is it Doug? Doug and I have conflict, and we go straight from exchanging words to guns. Number one, they're available. Number two, we have not been taught how to work through our conflict. Doug's quicker on the draw, I'm dead. My family is mourning my loss. But Doug's going to prison and his family's mourning his loss. The community loses, everybody loses. I don't know how we're going to be able to turn this corner, because where do you learn conflict resolution skills? Primarily in the home. And if that's not being taught there, then where can it be taught? How can the police department resolve that on its own? This is a community issue. Churches, schools, civic organizations, after school, aunts, uncles, grandma, grandpa, whoever, it's got to be taught, because that is a learned behavior. 6 brothers, I learned conflict resolution skills really early, really quick. And we still, you know, I still use them with my brothers. But in all seriousness, that is something that is a common denominator when you look at the shootings across the board. That's present, and it's the police department. We got 1,200 guns off the street. We're solving crime. We're putting people into jail to hold them accountable. But it takes the community as a whole to say we're not going to tolerate this, to mobilize. And I see it, and it predates me. People like Kent Boyd and others in the community, pastors, school, community leaders, getting organized and mobilizing, and now we just need to connect all the dots so this wave comes at the criminals saying, not in our community, not in our Akron. We love Akron. So that's some of the good news, that's some of the bad news. Let me shift real quick and pivot to something that we're about to launch, and it's a hiring and recruiting campaign. Our police department is understaffed in that we have a lot of vacancies. A lot of police officers are reaching the period of retirement. And I gotta tell you, the last 2 years have been very difficult for police officers specifically. The close scrutiny that they're under, the microscope that every aspect of their performance is examined. And then we're being held accountable for something that happens in Minneapolis that we didn't do. Mayor Horgan has visited with all of the high schools, the senior graduating class within the last month. And I had the great opportunity to go with him, and he gave me airtime. And that's dangerous. You give me a microphone, we're going to be here for a little bit. So he gave me the opportunity, and we're talking, and I asked him a question. I said, who is Derek Chauvin? And the students just kind of looked at me. And usually it's one student saying, well, he's the guy with George Floyd. Yes, that's who it is. How quickly people forget. Then I asked, who's George Floyd? And everybody, yes, they know who George Floyd is. What Derek Chauvin did not represent Steve Mylett. I've been doing this job 33 years. And I won't tell you all the things I've been involved in, but you know, I deal with chronic pain because of injuries I've sustained in the line of duty, as have many, many officers. I've served with some outstanding police officers, and even the officers that weren't outstanding, they wouldn't do that. 9 minutes on this man's neck. 9 minutes. That was criminal, in my humble opinion. And the court found that as well. But I was in Bellevue at the time when this happened. And we had riots in Bellevue. You all saw the news footage of Seattle. You had people that were on buildings trying to drop bricks on police officers. They would bring in these portable slingshot looking devices, look like something out of the dark ages, where they had Molotov cocktails. They're pulling back and launching it into the line of police officers. Never saw that before. And I will tell you this, at least in my experience and what I viewed, it was not Black Lives Matter that was doing this. It was not the Black Lives Matter movement. Again, from my vantage point, what I saw, it was people that were taking advantage of the situation that want to burn down our country. The anarchists that were coming up from Portland and other places, descending on Seattle and in Bellevue. Bellevue is a wonderful community. It's a safe community. And we saw things there that we never saw before. And I lost my train of thought. That happens because I'm Diet Coke deficient right now. So let me get it a little bit. But one of the things that we recognized through that was that we've got to do a better job as police departments in telling our story. Telling our story. Michaela Pickett, 2 years ago, predates me. When the officers got there, white officers, black officers, Michaela Pickett was a baby, 8-year-old African-American girl. They didn't see race. They saw a little girl that could have been theirs. Officers scooped her up, put her in the med unit. One officer got in the driver's seat while the medics and another officer was given mouth-to-mouth and trying to resuscitate this little girl. And the officer driving is getting to the hospital just as quickly as possible. They didn't see race. When I ask our officers, who are you coming here to serve? They say, everybody. And I said, everybody? They said, everybody. Black people? Yes. White people? Yes. Asians, Latinos, gay, straight? Yes. What about the most destitute? Chief, why are you asking me this question? I'm coming here to serve everybody. And I'm willing to put my life, give my life for this service. But yet we're being held accountable as your local police department. We should be held accountable no matter what. But we should be held accountable based on our performance, our actions. There's 18,000 police departments in this country, close to 1 million police officers. I can't be responsible for what happens somewhere else in the United States. But I am responsible for what happens here in Akron, Ohio. And so when I ask the students to do this one favor for me, please, when you are, let me ask you all something. Which type of government impacts your lives on a daily basis? Federal government or local government? It's local government, your trash pickup, clearing the streets, 911, what's your emergency? We're coming. And I ask the students, and I ask the community, when you judge the actions of police, and you should, please judge the Akron Police Department based on our performance, our conduct. And I promise you folks, we're gonna step in it. We're gonna step in a pile of, you know what? We're gonna make mistakes. And when we do, I promise you, we will own them. I will own them as your chief of police. And we will look at better ways to provide the service and not make the same mistake. When we see these incidents going on across the country, we learn from them. And we put things in place to ensure that those things don't happen in your city. I've been impressed with the officers and our civilian staff thus far. Again, we've got some distance to go. And how we're going to get there, we're going to get there with community input. One of the things that we're doing is we're about to launch a hiring campaign. Our police department is about 80% Caucasian. The population in Akron, Caucasian is in the 50 percentile-ish, somewhere in there. Our population in the police department, at least at the data that I saw with black officers, is about 15% and dropping. We need to reflect the community in which we serve. When I had this conversation in Bellevue, because it was similar over there, I had one officer say, "Chief, what's wrong with me? I'm a white police officer. Is there something wrong with me?" No, there's nothing wrong with you at all. But as a good friend of mine said, look, when you're putting together a basketball team, you don't hire all point guards. If you put all point guards out on the court, you're gonna lose. You need diversity. You need different people doing different things for the team. So we are on a campaign to hire the most talented, the people who are willing to step forward with a good heart of service, but there is a focus on diversity hiring. And my ask of all of you is to please get the message out. We're launching that campaign. Our test is going to be given on July 8th and 9th. You can apply all the way up until mid-June. And I'm pointing at you, brother. You're not 40 yet, right?
No.
So you got to be 21 to 40. So I'm just saying, you know, we live that. So it's going to be easy transition into policing. But anyways, let me, two more things, one more minute, and I'll give up the microphone. Our job is multifaceted, but when you look at contemporary issues, we are build bridges. We are bridge builders, thank you, Diet Coke official. Our mission is to build bridges into every community that represents Akron. So we build trust, we gain legitimacy. We can design our services to meet the community where they are and to provide the most effective services for everybody. Because this, folks, represents everybody, this shield. This represents the profession, this represents the Akron brand. And I want people, when they see this, to say that's a darn good brand. If I had a choice of going to a different police department for services, I'm going to Akron. Because this is the, what's the name of the retail business? Nordstrom, right? Dillard's, I don't go there either, but I heard it's pretty good. But I wanted to represent positive things. So with that, questions real quick.
Thank you so much, Chief. We really appreciate a wonderful presentation. Steve had mentioned we've got like time for maybe 3 quick questions here or online, and then if anyone wants to stick around after, Chief, if you can stay a few moments. But anyone questions? Thane, and then I'll get to Karen.
Hey, thanks again, Chief. So I know here in town, we're blessed to have the Bob Denton Safety Forces Center, and they do a nice job providing counseling services and other support services. Overall, how would you gauge the mental health of our officers, and how can we help them and support them?
So I think the mental health of our officers in Akron is good. I think there's programs and systems that we're lacking. One of them is peer support team, where the officers designate other officers that we invest training in, and their trusted friends that they can go to when they're dealing with issues either in the job or at home or wherever. There's been some obstacles to get that up and running here, but I think we're getting closer. But the method, and I'm glad that you brought that up. One of the things that we talk about is a tomorrow's program here, but that would take much longer. There's 3 pillars. One of them is officer wellness, recognition, and development. And in the wellness, it's emotional wellness, physical wellness, and financial wellness. Because if any one of those 3 is off kilter, then the officer coming out to serve you is not at their best. So there is going to be a focus on that. But right now, I think the state of our police department is good. They're stressed right now because they're going from call to call to call to call. My hope is we're going to get a lot of people hired in this next academy class, and we'll be able to give them some relief. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for everything you do, but I had the opportunity to do a police ride along as part of the Leadership Akron experience. and saw someone fake a domestic violence call to tell about drug activity that was going next door. And then as a member of the Mayor's Commission, we were the conduit for some senior citizens in the Copley Road area to tell on things. So there's still in our community a fear of being the folks. So just wondered if you have words of wisdom or ideas of how you're going to, change that mentality.
So Michaela Pickett, again, I met with members of her family today. There are people who saw what happened, but they're afraid to come forward because threats have been made. The streets have said, you snitch, you're gonna get hit. And I don't mean a punch, I'm talking about getting shot and killed. You can anonymously share information by calling, Crime Stoppers or calling our main police department and just saying, hey, look, it was Steve Mylett that committed this crime. This is what he was wearing. I don't want to be identified. You need to go look at this address because that's where he lives and that's where he put the gun or whatever. That information is actionable on our end and we can go investigate. Just pointing us in the right direction many times will help break the case. I understand the fear. I truly do. And the fear is real. It's not a fictitious fear. The streets are very, very difficult and it's violent. And when you're closer to it, you know the violence all too well. And so, but there's boundaries, folks. There's boundaries even in the streets. You kill an 8-year-old child. That's out of bounds. I mean, killing anybody is out of bounds, but you know what I mean? That's out of bounds. That's out of bounds. Killing an elderly person, going in and raping an elderly person in their home. That's out of bounds. Even in the world of the crooks, that's out of bounds. And my hope is that somebody's going to come forward to break this case and other cases, so we can get our job done.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Stay down. Yeah, stay down.
We have a lottery every week where people buy tickets, and we're gonna let you pick the winning ticket. It's a legal.
You didn't buy one. No, man, you told me you were going to. It's gonna be on the bottom.
The last four numbers are 8061.
Whoa. Woo, woo.
That's why she wanted me to stay up here.
That was it. So thank you for coming today. It was fabulous to have you and to hear your vision and to hear your heart. I was thinking of a couple of things you mentioned about your home, about your wife, your children, and you talked about building bridges. And not everybody is cross-cultural, but some people are. And you are clearly cross-cultural. And what is needed in the day and the hour to help merge, connect, heal in our cities is to have those very bridges built. Because if you're cross-cultural, you're connected to two different places, as it were. And so as we build those bridges, and that's begun. That's begun. And in getting around the city, and as many of you get around the city, and the chief has been doing, and even in his department, you get to know other people. You get to listen, hear them, see them, feel them. That's how the bridges are built, with mutual respect. So you come by naturally. Secondly, I was thinking as you were talking, in the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus made some pretty profound statements there, one of them was, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God." And to be someone's son is to emulate and be like the family. And police officers are called as peacemakers. And so bless you as you continue to do that. Bless our city. These are good days to be alive. And we've got a lot of work to do. But in getting to know most of you in this room and people who are online, getting to know the chief a little bit better today, we've got some pretty darn good raw material here for building these bridges and advancing the healing. And then I mentioned about Bill and what he's doing in business and enlarging the scope and the vision of Akron, Ohio, so that here we are, close to 200,000 people. Come on now. We're going to have so many people, it's going to be ridiculous because they're going to want to come to Akron because we're made of the right stuff. And so it's amazing what we have here and what we can do. And so I just want to say thank you. And I hope each of you have been encouraged today that we're on the right track. And then lastly, two things I'd like to ask of you. Would it be possible to share with the force for those who would fit in that 18 to 40 window about this program at Akron University, somehow, some way, about consideration for it be the match for being a blood donor? Okay, then I'll send you some information on that. And then secondly, and I know you're a busy man, but we would love and we'd be honored to have you give consideration to being part of this club and not putting a requirement on you that you have to be here all the time or anything like that. But we would be tremendously honored to have you as part of our club.
Do I get to keep my blue badge or do I have to start all over?
I've never done it.
We don't do the
We don't
blue
do
badge
the blue
program
badge.
anymore.
No. All right. And then lastly, I wanna make a comment. These meetings, week in, week out, don't come off. We're not able to bring them together without the help of a lot of good, fine people. And I want to talk about David Hall. This guy's amazing, and he's the sergeant of arms. But here's what I want you to know. He gets here every Tuesday, goes in and grabs all of the banners. He gets the boxes that have our named badges and everything. And he's here setting it all up. And then when we finish here in a minute, he tears it all down. And I usually stick around to help him. I've got to get to a meeting, a very important meeting. It's actually a radio meeting for Be the Match. Can someone please, for 10 minutes, help him? Thank you. Thank you. That would be great. And as we move forward into the future, and I'm going to lobby for this, is we're going to have monthly signups, so someone could maybe help, for a month in helping with the breakdown, because many hands make work light. So, well, God bless you, everybody. Have a great day, and let me ring the bell.